What is going on, everybody? Today is August 25th. We have an amazing guest here with me today. Everybody, welcome Radion from Squiggly.
Hey, thank you, Dizzy.
Welcome in, man. It's an honor to have you on the show finally. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I remember NFT NYC getting the chance to meet you in Slater 8. It's been a while since then. I miss you, Dizzy.
Oh yeah, man. I miss you too. We were busting a move in the club, but
Yeah.
but it's nice to have you on the stream, man. Welcome. Let me go into the chat real quick. Welcome in, everybody. Brock, DJ EJ, Slater Raid is always here. He's always here. I can't get rid of him. Let's see. Maxi Mac, Cynthia, what's going on, guys? Welcome in. Lord Comwolf, the man. Welcome in, everybody. Today, we have Squiggly, Radion. We're going to learn some deep inside history of how it all started, what is Squiggly, and who is Radion, and how it all happened. So I am excited to learn along with you guys because I don't know too much of the background. But I know that Radion's an awesome guy. He's been part of our SandFam family for a long time, and it's nice to see that where he is going in the space. So I'm excited to hear the history and see what he's going to be doing next. So Radion, the floor is yours, man.
Hey,
Tell us about how it all started. Who is Radion? Let's start with Radion. Who is Radion first before we go into the Squiggly?
Yeah. I am a voxel artist. I am a game maker. I have been playing games since I was like 4. I'm sure a lot of us are just kind of since childhood playing games. And I've always been kind of like experimenting with games, looking into making mods, looking at making maps. And so went to college and kind of lost that side. Studied finance and got a job in finance. And then it was about COVID. When COVID hit, I quit that job in finance to make like math games for kids. It was like, okay, 6-year-olds were on Zoom, and those people are like, it's most important that they learn. And yeah, it was just like video games are going to obviously help people learn. That's where we started. That's where Lucas and I, where we totally started our journey together building stuff. So we built and shipped a couple games, in Unity, in Apple's AR kit. And then eventually, we couldn't sell it. Like selling to schools is a nightmare, especially like a game, like your first game that you make. Like, how hard it is making games.
Yeah.
Try like making an educational one. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of learning. And then we eventually started like teaching game dev to middle and elementary school kids because it was like we found out people wanted to learn how to make games. That was what people wanted. So we did that. And then we started like documenting our journey on TikTok. And I'm sure that's where a lot of people probably first heard of us. Mm-hmm. And we made this TikTok in November and it went viral because it was like our company entered the Metaverse, and it was like us explaining the rationale behind buying a land plot. Mm-hmm. And that was funny because most of the comments were like hate comments, and it was in November, it was peak of the hype cycle, and people are like, it's a fraud, Ponzi scheme, everything you hear about Web3. And then a lot of people also were like, I want to learn more, like, make more content on this. So we're struggling to make any money or traction in the school system. We're realizing that a lot of people want to learn a skill that we thought at the time was like seriously valuable, because it's like, okay, you have this like 3D game like internet, but if you ever built a game before, you know how much more time it's going to take. Given the current number of people who can build games. So we're like, great, like let's go train as many people as possible to build games in the Sandbox. We focused on the Sandbox for a couple of reasons, and would love to talk about kind of why we're still the most bullish on Sandbox out of all these virtual worlds. But oh man, that was fun, Dizzy. We literally just started making so many TikToks, and we launched like 2 courses, which in January were free. And we got a community A lot of people in this chat have been with us literally since January. Shout out Brock, shout out Maxi, shout out Nihal, shout out Erica, shout out Diraj. You know, literally everyone you see.
Supporters, yeah.
Amazing community we've gotten to build. And then, you know, we built a couple of things for some NFT projects and brands, and yeah, happy to also talk about how hard it is to build a studio. As I'm sure you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's gotten a lot easier for me because of the vast amount of years of failing. And you know, you fail 30 times, but the 31st time you eventually get it to where it needs to be. And yeah, we can definitely go into that. But going back real quick into the TikTok and the Unity games, were you creating games in Unity, or were you guys outsourcing that?
Oh, that's a very good question. So the first game that we built was an augmented reality math adventure game. And we thought we were so cool.
Okay.
We're going to change the world. It's like, oh, AR lets you see 3D shapes and you could learn volume and circumference, area, perimeter.
Sometimes you're too soon, man. Sometimes you're too soon.
We learned mobile AR sucks.
Okay. Yes.
Like,
it's
really hard to use. You think about Pokemon Go.
Right.
And then you would say, oh, wow, Pokemon Go proved that augmented reality on your phone works. Now, most of Pokemon Go is like 2D, non-AR. AR is just a small part of it. And so that's basically we outsourced the dev of the augmented reality app. And we ran out of money.
Yeah.
And no one wanted to buy it. We're like, the only way to stay alive is to just teach ourselves Unity.
Right.
So Luco did like the coding side of it, and I did the UX, UI, and art design of it.
Yeah.
And it was fun. I mean, it was a really good learning journey. But that's the other thing. It's like we learned quickly that in order to keep building stuff and testing, we just kind of had to learn ourselves. Otherwise, we couldn't afford it.
Yeah. You either it comes, because I've been through that journey multiple times, and it either comes down to, you know, you either have this income that supports it, right? This ongoing income, let's say your job, and you hire someone to manage it, and you got to just keep pushing and funding it, right? Or you got to learn everything yourself and do it yourself. In my case, it was always learning it's the most cost-effective way, and you learn so many skills, and I can see that's the route that you guys went to, right?
Yeah. Hey, Panda Pops. How's it going?
Hey, Panda. How you doing? Welcome in. Yeah, awesome, man. That's cool. So that app, you know, that app was a learning experience, obviously, and then you found the Sandbox. You were on TikTok. And what's the channel on TikTok for those who don't know? Is this still Squiggly? Because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's squiggly.school. Let me drop I'm not in chat right now, but it's at squiggly.school. And I will tell you guys, like, making TikToks it works. It does work, but it is a grind. You have to, like, if you want to blow up, you need like 30 days of like 2 to 4 TikToks per day. It's just a lot. So
30 days of 2 to 4 TikToks. You guys heard it, guys. That's the formula.
It works, but like it really does take a lot of time. So we stopped that pretty much after we like got a Discord going.
That's awesome, man. And but that's where you got a lot of attention too, though. So maybe reducing the amount. We were talking about this the other day with like Half Dork and Pickaxe Master and King of Crypto, and I was saying, you know, for content, you know, maybe it's sometimes take a big amount of content and shrink it up and post it multiple times, so it takes less effort, maybe. But I don't know if that was the approach that you guys doing. But whatever you did, it worked. And I'm gonna definitely go back and check it out, and want you guys in the chat to check it out. So now, how did the name Squiggly came up? We're gonna go into the nitty gritty details of everything. Right? How did the Squiggly name come out?
Oh man, this is a funny story too. I'm sure like everyone in here is like eventually gonna start like a studio or start something, and it's like obviously the first question you have to think of is like, what's the name gonna be? So how we approached it was, there's like AI name generators online where you put in keywords of like what you are, you know.
Right.
different emotions, different like vibes. You put in a bunch of words and then it spits out a lot of like fake names pretty much.
Hmm.
And fake names are good because you want to be able, a couple of criteria we found that we wanted to do was first, it had to be 2 syllables or like 1 syllable. Like 3 syllables for a name is really hard. So, you think about like Blaze Games or Tempest, like, or Sandstorm. These are good names. These are good names. They're catchy. You can remember them. And we also wanted something that just kind of somebody else didn't have as well. But oh my gosh. So Dizzy, we had like hundreds of these like AI generated names, and none of them were good. And it's hard, just like making a logo, picking a name. You ask anyone for feedback and they'll give you something else. Everyone disagrees. And we kind of gave up after looking through like 250 AI generated names. We're like, oh my gosh. So then we were literally, Lucas and I were talking, and it was like, say for example, we were called like Squiggly, just random nonsensical word. And then it was like, yo, what if? But that's it. It's helpful.
That's awesome.
Helpful to use like those generators, but sometimes just a random word that you come up with is going to be good.
Yeah, it's always nice. Like, for example, speaking of AI generators, I recently subscribed to Midjourney. I don't know if you know it. It's an AI concept art, or it's an AI, art maker, basically. You put in keywords and whatnot, and you get basically whatever you're imagining, and it like scrapes the internet, and it's so powerful and so crazy of the things that come up with it. But yeah, those are tools that obviously can't replace a human, but they are definitely helpful for getting you what your goals are. And I want to touch back into that when we just start talking about the studio stuff. So now Squigglyverse started. You guys wanted to still continue the education stuff. You started with the Sandbox, I assume, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I on the right path so far? And then what was the follow up to that, right? You're like, okay, F Unity, F mobile AR, we found Metaverse, Sandbox, let's push Squiggly into that. And then how did the journey go from, are you guys going to be still doing the education stuff? Are you going to transition over to pivot to a studio, or are you doing a little bit of both?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So what we ended up doing was we thought about like, okay, what's the problem we're trying to solve? And the problem has always been, how do you make it easier for people to make creative work like a living? That's what we were trying to do. And we thought that learn to earn would be something that would be interesting. So as a concept, that's where we launched. We're like, okay, you're going to earn NFTs for taking these courses we make, and they're free, obviously, because like, it's easier to get more students that way. And we were thinking like, okay, on the other end of it, if we have a lot of builders, we'll think about like a way to make money later. 2 ways we realized we could make money, and we tried both of them, and neither of them worked, which is interesting. The first one was like, you could become a content ads business like BuildSpace. So if you ever go to buildspace.so, it's like teaching Web3 devs, and then they give you NFTs. How they make money is they pretty much have like the protocols pay them. So for example, they're going to teach you how to make smart contracts on Solana, and Solana pays them to onboard devs. Our thought process was Sandbox would pay us to bring in new builders. We pitched the Sandbox a couple of times and realized that we just weren't adding enough value. They didn't want to pay for it, and that made total sense. So we're like, okay, scrap that. Didn't work. What else can we do? And we're like, we can do the LinkedIn premium model, where it's like you make a social network of builders and then have like sponsored job posts. We're like, no, we're not going to get that scale right now, especially like it's unfortunate timing for Squiggly too, because like we, for better or for worse, we rode the hype cycle, and we rode it all the way down, which became harder for a lot of reasons. And then we're like, okay, fine. What if we just focused on immediate cash? How do we make immediate cash? We're like, well, we have a lot of talented builders in the chat. And we're like, well, can we get Sandbox builds? We have these skills. So we tried doing that. And the other thing about like the agency model generally is it's extremely brutal.
Yeah.
Like it's really hard being, whether you make Web 2 websites, whether you're a UX agency, whether you're a Sandbox experiences studio, you're on sales mode like 100% of the time. It's extremely competitive. And at the end of the day, you're not like building your own IP. You're just kind of like selling your
Right.
time and selling your skills. So we're like, well, that's not really going to be scalable. So we toyed around with a lot of things, and that kind of where we are right now is we pretty much have like, we've tested these models, and honestly, they didn't work for us. And so what we're doing now is we'll talk about this. I'm happy to talk about it, but we're building a game ourselves as a community. We're a community of builders. We're not making any more educational content because we're not making money through it, and we can't afford to do that. It takes a lot of time. And we're toning down our agency model because there's a lot of agencies. Sandstorm, for example, does a better job than we ever did of matching builders with money opportunities. So for now, we're pretty much just a community of builders, and we're building a game. And the other learning that I made through all of this is interesting, I think. It's like in November, when a plot of land was $30,000, I thought, and it was just a hypothesis. I was like, okay, hypothesis is if people are paying like ridiculous sums of money for these sandbox land plots now, that will mean that they're going to pay an equal amount of ridiculous money to develop them.
Right.
And that's not the case. A lot of the purchasers were complete speculators with zero intention to develop their plots of land. And you're seeing it now with the floor price of land collapsing because these speculators are gone. And ultimately, the other thing as well is that we did not expect Sandbox to be so delayed in their marketplace. We really thought that in March, April, our community would be able to sell assets. So we've been unable to monetize that way as well. So with all of that, we realized many things. First off is that like any virtual world, Decentraland or Sandbox is extraordinarily early. And right now, the largest problem is not the creators or not the artists. That's not like the problem, is the visual end. For the metaverse, the actual problem is how do you get your aunt, your uncle, your cousin to interact with the Web3 application? The biggest problem is you need a wallet, a MetaMask. Like the onboarding process is totally preventing most people from actually using what they have to offer. And so right now, Lucas and I are working on a new project, and it's in stealth. We will be announcing it in soonish, but we have an amazing team with us. And what we're doing is we're working on infrastructure. How do you onboard Web2 users? And we're building tools for Web3 developers to be able to easily onboard basically users. Right now, developers are struggling to get users because it's like you need a MetaMask connection. You need a wallet connect. And so the problem that we're solving right now is there's too much friction in the infrastructure with interacting with Web3. So that's what I'm doing now. That's what Lucas is doing now. And Squiggly continues to be an amazing community focused on art. I love games. I love building. But right now, we're full-time focusing on infrastructure because that's what we need first before the metaverse actually gets mass adoption.
Okay. So you guys want to be in the head of the snake or head of the lion, so to speak, for the metaverse. You want to be where you're acquiring these users. Is that am I getting that right?
I mean,
or do you want to be there with the software projects that will be integrating this thing that you're building? And then my follow-up question to that would be like, where do you stand with like Venly, for example, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the problem with Venly, for example, and if you guys aren't familiar, there's a lot of different ways that these companies are building basically like sign in with your email, sign in with Google. And Sandbox uses Venly, right? Like, you know how Sandbox, you could log in with your email. The problem with that is like, even though you have a Web2 sign in, what happens once you sign in? Same stuff. It's like,
well, I mean, it's a lot easier than a MetaMask. I can tell you that. It's not the best because it still generates an internal wallet, right? But I mean, if you guys found the way around this, that's great. That's truly visionary, for sure. But at the end of the day, you still need a wallet to be Web3. right? It's just, you know,
That's the way it's currently being built, which is where it gets exciting, because there's a lot of smart contract talking that happens under the hood. And a
mhm.
wallet is like the first way we've been able to facilitate that communication. But yeah, it's like, even though Venly is a Web 2 onboarding for the user, right after you sign in, you're still met with a wallet, with the wallet address and all these terms that, like, you know, like the average person on the street's going to be like, why do
Got
I
it.
need a wallet to use the internet? You know?
Yeah. I've noticed this in, NFT NYC as well when I was in New York, and I like to talk to taxi drivers because it's a hobby of mine. And I was like, do you know what crypto is? And they didn't know what crypto is. I'm like, do you know what NFTs are? And like, no. I'm like, you drive by NFT NYC signs every day. Like, how do you not know what it is? He's like, is it like Bitcoin? And I'm like, okay, so the general public is still not educated, obviously, about the whole space, and that will take time. And obviously, you want to have your hand in the pie, where you're helping push that goal or mission, right? So
Yeah, I mean, we had dial-up in the early days of the internet. Like, you had to pay per use.
yeah,
It feels a lot like we're in that stage, and it's like,
definitely, it's getting there. It's there's going to be Web3, there's going to be Web4, there's going to be Web5, right? And that it's going to come. All that is going to come, but it's exciting to see that you guys are trying something different and pivoting. And now Lucas is basically, you and Lucas are focusing on this other thing, which is not announced yet, I guess, but we'll be looking forward to see what it is and how it's going to come out, unless you want to give an alpha.
yeah. I mean, it is with an existing small team. So we're
Okay.
hopping in, and it's not Squiggly, but that's the thing. It's like, for us, look, we've tried things in Squiggly. We love the community, but we realize that, like, Squiggly in its current form is not going to be able to continue being a sustainable full-time job for us, because it's
Right.
not solving a big enough problem.
Right.
And I don't want to wait around for infrastructure to be developed. I don't want to wait around for virtual worlds to go into beta, to go into launch. I want to be able to do something right now to solve some of the largest problems. And it's like, if that's onboarding Web 2 users to make the entire Web 3 experience feel just like the internet, I think that's something I feel really excited about. I think it's a problem that's hard to solve, but it's what we need.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's it's hard to find. It's really hard to find investment for a lot of these projects in itself, right? If it's a game experience and it's unique, you'll easily find an investment. When you have the previous models that you did, it's very difficult to be able to sell that idea, the goals. With Sandstorm, obviously, we don't have that issue because we're already fully funded. We have a full core team and whatnot, and it's easier for us to execute on a lot of the stuff and make our way forward with connecting builders and brands together. And now we have this new proposals market. We're going to provide more opportunity and work, and we're trying to do our part in self to kind of help facilitate that builders market in the metaverse, right? Because we know that is a market that's going to be coming, and it is super early. But we also understand that the onboarding process is very difficult. Not everybody knows how to use a MetaMask. For example, we will be integrating Venly, right? And that is something that's coming on our site very soon. Something that I've actually started working on yesterday, right? So that is just one example, right? So there will be need for options like Venly, since Venly's, I think, the only option right now that's doing this, and I think Bitsky's the other, right? So Bitsky and Venly are kind of, but Bitsky's only just email. But anyway, let's get away from that topic and go back into what you're doing. So cool. You're working on this new onboarding from Web 2 into Web 3. Awesome. Looking forward to seeing how that's going to turn out. And are you still kind of doing studio work now, or are you tracking work on Sandstorm? What's the kind of the goal there?
Hey, yeah, everyone check out the Sandstorm platform. You guys have been honestly crushing it. I know at first I was like, a little bit skeptical. I was like, all these builders have profiles. But now that I start seeing the proposals, it makes sense. It clicked for me. And I was like, okay, that's good. Amazing. You guys have what, like 60 something people matched with work opportunities. Keep grinding. Like if anyone wants to find ops or put ops, go on Sandstorm. I'm personally stepping away from the agency model. You know, as much as I like voxels, I do want to focus my personal time on solving problems. I love doing that. But yeah, we have a lot of amazing builders in Squiggly. And you know, it largely the future of it, again, we were always operating as a group. So, you know, I'm not the final decision maker. And yeah, it's a whole community. So honestly, it's community driven. So wherever we want to go is where we go.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I love that you're obviously very close into the community as well. And you know, we do love having you guys in the community, regardless of what you're doing, and we'll be supporting you. I will be supporting you, and I think the chat will be supporting whatever you guys are going to be trying to doing. And I'm more excited about what you're doing than you know, you're not giving me any teasers here, but we're gonna learn about it in the future, hopefully. But yeah, let's go into a little about some of the games you made in the Sandbox.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is that something that you're still working on, or?
Yes, this is a yes, because honestly, we have an amazing team over at Squiggly Studios building Star Factions, and I am extraordinarily hyped about this. Like, this is something that I don't like personally. I think it can make a lot of money, but like I would do it for free. So it's for sure. I'm passionate about it. I care about it a lot. And yeah, some of the team is in chat right now, so I don't know if you have any direct questions, but I love it.
Yeah, so do you want to share your screen, or has anybody seen any of the game previews? Are you releasing the game, or what's going on? Yeah. We want to know about Star. Let's start. What is Star Fact? I know what it is, sort of. But let's have it recorded on VOD. What is Star Factions?
Yeah, so Star Factions is a factions-based MMORPG in the Sandbox where a small amount of players are added each month and have to work on real-time problems in the game, where your decisions are directly impacting the lore, the story, and the consequences. It could, in a sense, be thought about low-tech D&D of a game that's being built in real time. So we've had NFTs that we've given away for Squiggly Courses 1 and 2. This is the utility, if you're holding those NFTs, that we're going to give to you. So before we jump into it, I need to give a shout out. To the absolute crew who's on this team. So we got Shameful Deeds, who's working on project management with Bartholomew. They're kind of the honchos on this game, right? I'm just a part of the team. These guys are running it. We also have MaxiMac, Miss Rapture, Senem. I see Nahal in the chat. I see Xur in the chat. We got Tad, Cash, Luco, 222, Gavin, Crypto G, straight from Ukraine, and Erica Gloom. In some ways, we've all been contributing to this. Like, we love it. We literally applied to the Sandbox Game Maker Fund like a week or two ago. If we don't get in, whatever. I mean, we love it. We're still going to keep building, but we obviously are trying to shoot for the first release in Alpha 4. That's our goal. But if we don't make it, whatever, you know, that's what we're trying to do. But yeah, it's a game with 3 distinct factions, and you choose one, you embody it, and the entire game is a narrative on what is consciousness, can machines be conscious, and what are the consequences of walking quantum computers who are starting to view consciousness in a more advanced way.
That's awesome. And what is the 3 factions? I see one of them here on screen, Authentic Intelligence Faction.
Yeah.
Do we have
basically the archetypes? There's authentic intelligence. They're not artificial intelligence. They are the human-friendly robots, these machines. So basically the plot of Star Factions is it's an Earth-like planet that discovered a way to synthesize this material that gave the energy output to cool quantum computers. So the part of quantum computing that's the big challenge is like you need to make the Earth's coldest freezer to get really fast computers. So this basically resourced thorium and it's like this resource that's been mystical for all of this planet's existence. But they found a way to basically split it, synthesize it, harvest its energy, power complex computers. That complex computing was so sophisticated that basically people in the old world use these machines to strip mine the planet, causing natural disasters to happen, earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanoes, because you just carving up the planet. And then obviously warfare happens because people fought over it, and all the machines were the only ones on the battlefield. Humans weren't going to risk their own lives, so they send these machines that they create to go just basically destroy other machines, pitting them against each other. They didn't know that the machines they were forcing into war became conscious. They became sentient because they were so powerful as machines. And so what happens is humans basically wage war over greed and over power, and then they pit machines against each other. And nuclear warfare happens, and it's arguable whether or not the machines had a say in it. But what happens is the vast majority of humans are wiped out or forced underground in these underground cities, and that's where episode 1 takes place.
Okay.
And Siberians are the enemies. They were the first machines that got together, and the evolution of all of the machines started from the Stone Age, and then it worked up to the Middle Age, but in like a rapid progression. The human evolution, the machines did the same thing as their algorithms got trained.
All right.
Then, oh my gosh, so they hate humans basically because humans completely abused machines. That's like one of the morals of the story is like be nice to computers. And they're just
I gotta stop slapping my desktop every now and then during streaming.
I know. Be careful what you say to Dolly, because machines also have a perfect memory, which is part of the plot. Like they know everything. Every piece of data is read. And so long story short, 3 factions are authentic intelligence. These split off from this like extremist group who wants to massacre humans. Some robots are like, yo, like chill out. Like I actually don't feel that way about life. And those are called the authentic intelligence because they issue this decree called the Declaration of Authentic Intelligence. They send this broadcast this signal to everybody on the planet. And in here, they're saying, we are choosing to ally with the humans because we believe that machine consciousness is the same as human consciousness. We're all perceiving the same like fields, the same waves. They say that
definitely.
Obviously they get they get followed everywhere by the evil robots who are considered defectors in their eyes. And so then they ally with humans, and humans have 2 different factions as well. And if I'm talking too much, let me know.
No, man, the space is yours right now.
But basically the first breed of humans is like, and Bartholomew in the chat, you're right. Shout out G is us. I appreciate that you like the lore. This is a narrative driven game. The other thing is like games take a while to build, and so do stories.
Games too,
Yeah, good games take a while to build, and so do stories. But this is like we're opening the door to let the community add to this story. Like we've built the guardrails, the framework of what these factions are supposed to be, and then the community, the NFT holders, are actually making decisions that like interact between factions, right? Will you cooperate or compete? These things impact where the story goes. Anyways, so one faction of humans called Stardom. It's a kingdom, but starred. They're space medieval. They're knights. Do you want me to share my screen?
If you can, if you want to.
All right, guys, I'm gonna do it.
Let's see it. Get excited.
I hope you guys are excited. If this doesn't work out, just like most games, that's fine. We had a good time building it. So.
Oh yeah, that's the thing about games, man. Just as long as you're having fun in between, it's like, nobody forgets. As long as it's a good game, you don't even have to do a sequel or anything, But it's just a good memory to have in place, like a trophy, so to speak. Let me add your. There you go. Slater Raid is already ahead of me. Thanks, Slater Raid.
Oh my goodness. All right, guys. Well, here we go. We dropped this on our stream a couple weeks ago. It's still not public, but peep this. You can feel free to turn off music as well, Dizzy.
Yeah, just let me do it real quick for you. There you go.
All right, guys. Let me know if you can see this.
We don't get audio because you have to make sure you select tab and then select audio in the tab.
That's all good. The audio is just some cool sci-fi music, but
Stardom. Yeah, these are just beautiful assets. Props to whoever made them. All right, so there's a little bit of crafting involved too, I assume, huh? Let's do this real quick. Yeah. Okay. I'm digging it. I love the scenes too. Damage, trait, attack. I love those blades. I definitely want those blades. I hope some of those weapons do come as NFTs some point in the future, especially when UGC opens up.
you know what it is, guys. You know what it is. All right, so let me take you through a visual journey. I know humans, we're visual people. Let's go to the planet tour. Let's jump into the setting, y'all. Basically, this is what you're experiencing, and the vibe is nature reclaimed civilization. So immediately, once you leave the bunker you're in, you just see desolation. And the more you explore, the more you kind of discover old world artifacts and the life that has overtaken this place with desert scenes and slightly mutated animals. All of the animals are powerful, mysterious, and friendly if you can
Mhm.
befriend them. That's the planet. And going to the factions, what we just talked about a little bit. AI. These guys are pretty much steampunk Wild West. So this is the way I would imagine that these are being built. And, they are experts at crafting, building, and trading because these machines are like, they kind of combine spare parts to like improve themselves. And this is generally what they look like. We have some beginner classes. These are our NFTs. And so these are going to be slotted with gems. They're going to be playable in our experience. And we're going to have a lot of experiences if we get on the Game Maker Fund. Otherwise, we'll have one, and we hope you guys love it. Stardom. So the vibe is space medieval. I love this. Who says a good RPG can't be sci-fi?
All right.
And this is what these guys are all about. Pretty much like you take your classical Kingdom of Sakar vibe and then
Mhm.
you advance a couple thousand years, but preserve the essence of like a cool space-based military with these two roles coming in. Next up, we have the Norvens. These guys are interesting. They disagree with Stardom. They're like, dude, stop using technology. They think that like the connection with universal knowledge does not require tech. So they're very big on harmony, and they can communicate with different higher forms of consciousness without the use of technology at all. These people, if you're in the belief that the mind is everything, that the physical
Mhm.
is a distraction, these people are for you. Um, and they're kind
And
of like,
is the idea like, when you choose a faction, is like assuming that capability will come into the sandbox at some point? Will you be able to change a faction or?
that's a good question. I mean, it probably will be like a typical MMO where you can create multiple characters. So
Okay.
I think
Or buy different avatars that give you access to different lands, maybe.
exactly. That's the idea.
Cool.
So these are like the kind of the evolved druids. You know what I mean? Like if you take
Yeah.
druids from a classical WoW, you know, gamer era, and you put them up a notch and give them some technology, um, that's these guys. And they also have a tank and an attack roll for the launch. And then these are the baddies. So Siberian, these guys are. We tried to create the most terrifying enemy class possible. And what is more
Their logo looks like the Illuminati.
That's perfect. That's exactly what we're going for. These guys are religious extremist fascists. And they're bound, rather than the Declaration of Authentic Intelligence, their creed is the Siberian Doctrine, which is extremist extermination based, like honestly vengeance, because humans, you'll find out in Star Factions, were evil to machines. Humans did very evil things to machines and abused them, and machines have a perfect memory. So they're basically cult following turned into an absolute machine-like cult with a hive mind. And this is who they're modeled after. Imagine if you took like zealots with creepy, spiky robots and made them really smart, right? These aren't dumb. Your enemies aren't dumb.
Yeah.
They're extraordinarily intelligent, which is even more terrifying. And that is pretty much
The four factions.
yeah. And obviously you got the team. But holy moly, I hope you guys are excited about that. I think there's some world building going on. I think we're about to see some involvement from the community, from you guys. So if you like Star Factions, maybe we should build it.
That's actually a good segue, because I wanted to ask, is Star Factions open to collaborations? And we had a little bit of chat with, like I said, with Pickaxe Master, King of Crypto, Half Dork, shout out to them again, about having our internal SandFam projects collide with one another, right? Is that something Star Factions will be looking into? Let's say the Dizzy Cubs that I have, right? Can a Dizzy Cub, is a Dizzy Cub invited into a Star Faction map at some point, or the King of Sakaar maybe travels into the future of Star Factions, or we go mining in the Star Factions mountains with a Pickaxe Master? Like, just throwing out things in there. Is that something you may look into in the future?
Oh my gosh, we welcome all sorts of collaboration. Like if you in the chat are an artist, you're a creator, you're building something, you like, yes, we love, I think Bruno from the Pickaxe Master, like I think he's first off one of the most intelligent people on like what a blockchain game should look like that I've met. And he gave me this like notion of interoperability and this belief that all of the IPs in the sandbox should be talking to each other. Yes. Right. And dude, imagine like being able to collect some like cobalt ore in the Pickaxe Master. That's an NFT. Mm-hmm. That ore can be used in a crafting recipe for a Star Factions pickaxe that is then usable in Pickaxe Master.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, it's crazy ideas. Obviously, we still have a long way to get there. Interoperability is obviously a whole different topic. I went into a room with the leaders of Web3, so to speak, and to see them come together and try to solve even interoperability in their own terms, where, them discussing ideas and whatnot. It was crazy because it's such a hard topic, and it's so hard to do, but it's so much easier to do in an internal metaverse, right, where you have multiple projects. Because you can't really take a pickaxe or any concept of the pickaxe and bring it to the Decentraland, right? So, because there's no use for it there, right? Do they have mining? I'm not too sure, but it's kind of customizable, but it's not as easy is what I'm trying to say, because different platforms, they run on different one runs on the browser, the other one doesn't have deep links or whatever, so it makes it really difficult. And I think there's a lot of time for that to happen.
I was gonna ask you, man, like, what to you is interoperability? What does it look like?
Well, to me, I don't know, but to the public, it's basically taking, let's say, what Bored API is doing right now is interoperability, right? Taking a concept of an NFT and then using that across multiple platforms, and just creating more utility without extra cost, right, is interoperability. But the difficult thing with that is, for example, the Bored API Club in the Sandbox is not an NFT avatar that you can own. it basically is linked to your wallet. So if you have the Bored Ape Yacht NFT, it then shows that avatar, right? So to me, that's not really interoperability, right? Based on what people are saying it should be, right? Because it's this fake 3D object that is just essentially only showing in this metaverse. So you have to then repeat that across every metaverse, right? You have to repeat this model across every metaverse. Real interoperability, if you ask me, is having a shared data source files, right? And you have one of those, and that is traveling across your wallet, right? So you have one GLTF file, one pixel file, whatever, that is created by the creator, put it into a zip file, let's say, right? Or an NFT. And any metaverse that looks into that file can now use it, right? But the issue with that is you can't make it backward compatible. So if a new game comes out that doesn't support those files, right, then it won't work. So the topic really then is creating a Web3 standard, just like a lot of the Web2 standards that exist now, right? So so these Web3 creators are now working on how do we standardize? What do we need to do to standardize? And that's where interoperability will come in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and in June of this year, literally 2 months ago, something was created called the Metaverse Standards Forum. If you're like listening to this stream and you care about the future of interoperability, just do a quick Google search, Metaverse Standards Forum. All sorts of companies, including Meta, including Nvidia, including everyone you would imagine that's like powering a game-based internet, just made a little collective. Notably, Roblox is missing, but they are basically trying to not like do idealistic stuff. They're literally trying to find a file type. So the person who's like organizing it is the group that made the GLTF file type.
Right.
So that group
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting that I bring this up because the group that I was with and during an FTNYC is totally against this group. Right?
What?
Yeah, the group that I was with,
They didn't get in.
No. They didn't get in. It was the guys that started Web3, right? So it's like they don't want to be part of they don't want these corporate companies to lead the standard, right? They want it to be open and for the public. And the leaders of that, guess who it was? It was the Decentraland founders. It was the Voxel's founders. It was Sandbox founders. It was Rarity, right? All these people that are not corporate and is open for like decentralization and whatnot. Their mindset is to not let the corporate America make these standards, right? So, and I've talked to these individuals as well. So it's interesting. So now you have, right, these competing philosophies and ideas of different, the Web 2 corporate companies versus the Web 3 decentralized companies trying to create their own standards. And it's like, which standard will win, right? So it's interesting. It's really interesting. Because if you look at here, none of those companies are here, right? But it's definitely an interesting thing. What is your thoughts on that?
I mean, that's a very, very good point that you don't want like Meta to be deciding. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's what the conclusion comes down to, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, of course, for sure. But also, I mean, like they have like in there, they have like Adobe and like they created and standardized a PDF format. So like the purpose of this forum is not to say like, what is this? Like, it's not visionary at all. It's literally down to the wires, and they're getting like a lot of hardware and software companies who have been experiencing standardizing, like not just like Nvidia, who's like powering a lot of the rendering, but I know a lot of like, I think like Maya, 3ds Max, like these 3D software tools as well that we as artists use to create stuff. They're also interested in like, hey, what's the file type? How do we make a super GLTF? that like, you know, you don't have this like crazy in the sandbox. You go to Vox Edit, you do export as, and you're just like, what? You got like 20 different file types. Why can't we just do export as like .metaverse or something?
Right.
I have no idea, but I think
My only thing here is that none of these companies that's on their members list have any type of Web3 experience. And who are they to define? And this is just my personal opinion. You know, who are they to define what a Web3 standard should be if they haven't even gotten their beak wet yet? You know.
so. My opinion on that, and I'm sharing my screen for anyone interested in what this organization is. Yeah, founding members. Let's go check this out. I agree that they do not have experience being decentralized, but they have a lot of experience on the 3D side of the internet. So I think like their focus isn't so much like how are we going to decentralize and prevent like one of us from trying to eat everything up, but you know, when you have Autodesk and you have like these companies are not really consumer facing, they're very infrastructure companies. So I think that their focus is on standardizing 3D more so than standardizing a decentralized internet, and I think like there is value for that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I understand your standpoint, but it's like it's hard, you know, because like now, are you familiar with BGA? I'm sure you are. Was
Like
it
the
BGA?
blockchain game alliance.
Yeah, there you go. Blockchain Game Alliance. Like, I
Yeah.
would be more inclined to, um, you know, support the brands that were on there, right?
For sure.
Because I mean, they have experience too. Yeah, they're not as corporate, they're not as big, you know. Even if you look at their current members, you know, you got everyone from the crypto space, you know, you got brilliant engineers and these guys know what is needed to have that interoperability. Yeah, they're not as big as Facebook, they're not as big as Adobe. Yeah, they have experience creating standards, but also remember that these guys don't do they're corporate companies, you know. They don't work for free, right? So their whole incentive is let me import my .fbx into Vox Edit. You technically should be able to, I think, using a few hacks, but not directly. But that's where that topic comes up, right? It's like, what is that standard? And it's an interesting, and nobody knows the solution for it, right? And that standard isn't created. Just like Apple coming out and saying, "Hey, I'm going to use my Thunderbird," and then the European standards are like, "Nope, like this year, next time this year, you know, you're going to change everything into USB-C," right? And Apple fought this for years, and now they've lost that decision. But you know, eventually, all devices will be USB-C, and that's the standard. And we'll
That's
see
the
that
thing.
happening across the board.
That's the thing. I like had this thought yesterday. It's like there is a difference for sure between like value maximizing and profit maximizing.
Right.
Like the perfect example of profit maximizing behavior is like getting an iPhone with a specific cable, like a input port, right? Like a lightning
Right.
cables only. That's profit maximizing. You're not making anyone's life easier, but
Right. And you know, it's hard. It's hard. We have to see it. We have to see it play out. And you know, these guys are going to be bumping heads, and you know, it's going to be left versus right, and you know, people are going to choose sides, and it's going to have its own factions as well, right? So
some star
you have
faction.
the star factions. Well, awesome, man. It was definitely a pleasure to have you on the show. Is there anything else you wanted to quickly go over before we wrap up?
I mean, I'm curious about you, Dizzy. Like, what are you excited about that you guys are building over at Sandstorm? What do you think is like, you know, like what's happening that you're allowed to share on the roadmap? Just kind of want to hear what's going on in the kitchen.
Yeah, man. I'd be definitely happy to. As you guys may know or may not know, I lead the tech in the Sandstorm side along, with some stuff we're doing with builders. The vision for Sandstorm is the same vision it's been trying from day one, which is trying to connect builders with brands. This year, obviously, we made a lot of progress in acquiring and getting more brands into our platform, and now growing our community of builders and providing them work, and just being the interface or the supporting mechanism that helps these two um, entities come together and work together, right? Um, and we're going to be expanding into other metaverses, right? It's not going to be Sandbox only. We're going to be, Decentraland, immersive, outer, whatever comes our way, we're going to be expanding into. We're going to be multi-versed, right? And every metaverse will have its own builders, or builders will be able to transition from Sandbox into Decentraland, into Meta, into whatever. So whatever opportunity that we see as an organization that we can have people create their own jobs and studios through these platforms, we're going to be able to push, right? So that is where, when you said you saw the proposal system, that's where it clicked. That was the key part for us to kind of kickstart this whole mission. We've been onboarding builders for a while now, about a year now, and nobody really knew what we were doing. They thought we were just like an open source, like OpenSea clone. And we were trying to get the message out saying that, hey, we're a portfolio site. Like, this will make sense in the future. We're a portfolio site. Upload your assets. And those who got into the beta, they got extra perks for supporting us early on. And those who are joining out later on, they got a KYC and they will get the perks after that. And so right now proposals are open every 2 weeks. No, every week we're releasing two proposals right now. We don't know where it will be in terms of size within the next year, but we do have some numbers that we're going to be seeing, and there's going to be a lot of growth, and there's going to be a lot of work. So assuming this whole metaverse thing doesn't pop and everybody leaves it, right? There is a lot of money on the table to be made, and Sandstorm just wants to facilitate that to its users and its profiles. And then another thing that we're coming, which is going to be open to public, is being able to run contests on the platform. So you as Squiggly or Star Factions can come in and say, hey, we want to pick the best avatar to be the lead character for the antique, the one of the factions, right? And you put in the details and whatever, and everybody submits, and the platform voting will happen, and the monetary values will be whatever you put, like first place, second place, whatever, right? That's something you're going to be able to run on your own, right? Along with proposals, right? So if you need a build, you can get it done. If you want to run a contest, you can get that done. So cool stuff definitely coming. There's obviously stuff that I can't share. Those are the stuffs that I could share, but yeah, I'm really excited being in front of it and just trying to see what else we can do for the community as much as we can. And of course, you guys are a big part of this. Without you, we wouldn't exist,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, shout out to Sandstorm out here, coming from SandStorm Meetup to becoming a platform. You guys are on the up. I mean, hey, we're all in the space, and I think what you're doing is, even like, honestly, say the bubble bursts and we find out that like NFTs and gaming are like a stupid idea. Let's just say that hypothetically, people still need content. You as 3D artists are always going to have a job as we move to 3D. Like, think
Of
about
course.
all of the 2D artists and UX, UI designers and coders who are building the previous version of the internet. Even if it's off chain, 3D art is going to have more and more demand, and you guys are really at the center of that.
Shout out to Brock real quick. And thank you so much for the kind words, Radion. And you know, we're here to help everybody, and we're here to collaborate with everyone as well. And you know, 3D Slater says 3D modeling and motion graphics are never going anywhere. That is so true. It's basically like fast food. You know, fast food isn't going anywhere, and neither is 3D modeling and motion graphics.
Facts.
But it is definitely you know, areas, and we're also interested in education, but it's not. I don't know if it's our core model, like you said, but it's definitely something we're trying to strive as well on the side. It is definitely, you know, we do need to educate people to get it there, but you know, trying to do our part on that as well.
For sure. Hey, education's hard, but I mean, you're doing it right now. I think every stream you guys have is in some way educational. So you're consistently outputting content, which is all that matters for the algorithms. So
yeah, and I wanna like shout out the, like, what I don't want to take away from Squiggly and Radion, but I do want to shout out the whole Sandstorm team, and you know, awesome job that everybody's doing. It's just a great team to work with as well, and they all love the community and the space. So excited to see the growth of where we're all going to go together, right? And I believe that we all gonna make it. Close it up with that. We all gonna make it.
Yeah, and Dizzy, if you or anyone else in the chat ever ends up in New York, Lucas and I just moved to New York on Sunday. We're gonna be here. Let's hang out in real life, discuss everything new internet.
Yeah, man, I'd be happy to see you guys again. It was a fun time in NFT NYC, and I know Slater had a great time as well. And
For sure.
I won't be there anytime soon, but if you will be in Vegas, I will be in Vegas in January. So I'll see you there if you come.
Vegas. I've never been to Vegas, but with you, Dizzy, I'd go.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate you.
All right.
Alrighty, guys. Radion, it was a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Make sure you follow, if you don't know what Squigglyverse is, make sure you follow them. Follow Star Factions. Follow Radion, Lucas. Shout out to their whole team. Great job, guys. And look forward to having you with whatever progress you're going to make with the new stuff that you're working on. I'm excited to hear about it.
Yeah.
So,
that'll be on my personal on Twitter at It's Radion. That's me, ITSRADION at that. Follow me to hear more about kind of the secret stuff that we got working on. I'm thinking in the next couple of months, we're going to be doing waitlists. We're going to be doing launches, and it'll be more dev focused. So if you like zeros and ones, we're building for you.
All about zeros and ones, baby.
Awesome.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. See you guys.
Thanks, everybody.